Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes mod. Brown Cipher. On the subject of the Brown Cipher, I hope this cipher isn't as crappy as it looks. On the module, you will see 3 screens, a keyboard, 2 arrows, and a submit button that displays the current page you're on. Pressing the right arrow takes you to the next page. Pressing the left arrow takes you to the previous page. There is a total of 2 pages. On page 1, the top screen shows a 6-letter encrypted word. The middle and bottom screen shows a 6-letter string. On page 2, the top and middle screens show a 6-digit number, and the bottom screen shows a 6-letter string. Follow the mechanics down below to decrypt your word. Step 1. Book Cipher. Take the text from all the screens except from the top screen of page 1 and layer it like so. Middle screen page 1. Bottom screen page 1. Top screen page 2. Middle screen page 2. Bottom screen page 2. You should now have a grid of 6 columns by 5 rows. Each column corresponds to a letter from the diary in the appendix. For each column, do the following instructions. Take the first row, character, and turn the letter into its alphabetic position. This will be called W. Take the second row character and turn the letter into its alphabetic position. This will be called X. Take the third row character and multiply it by 10. Add the fourth row character to that number. This will be called Y. Take the fifth row character and turn the letter into its alphabetic position. This will be called Z. The Zth character in the Yth word of the Xth paragraph on the Wth page is the decrypted letter. This will result in a 6-letter keyword that will be used in steps 2 and 3. Clarifications. Only count the letters or numbers. Ignore everything else. The dash doesn't count as a letter, but it does connect the words together to form one word. The colon also does the same thing, usually with time like so. 7:30. If it has a space, like you see between so and 7:30, they are considered 2 words. If the resulting character is a number, follow these instructions. If the number is even, turn the number into the first letter of the serial number. Otherwise, turn the numbers into the last letter of the serial number. Example. Encrypted keyword. TQN VRQ. JKN GDI. 124113. 221 221. EAD AAC. TJ12E goes to E. QK22A goes to S. NN41D goes to C. VG12A goes to A. RD12A goes to P. QI31C goes to E. Decrypted word. Escape. Step 2. Strip Cipher. For this, you're going to need the encrypted word on the top screen of page 1 and the keyword you got from step 1. For each letter of the keyword, use it as a row to get a 26-letter strip from the table below. A. NIP TLV ZWH ACB FQG MSR XYU OJE DK. B. SFH LNY GCU QWX DEV KOI ZMT BPJ AR. C. WJC XPN VER YSQ BDI FZT MGO UKH LA. D. GHE JXB FPL UMK NRZ CAW OSQ YVD IT. E. RUJ VMC TAI HXG EPL NDQ YOK FZB WS. F. LDW SYH KBO VGC RMN ETP IQA JXF ZU. G ONM IRK QYD JET CZW GLF BXH ASV UP H MTV YBR XNF DJO ASU QPE KLI WHG CZ I ECT NHO WFB MLV YJS RXG UZD IAP KQ J UAQ WGT IKN FHL VXM ZEO DCJ PBR SY K DSY KUJ ATZ LOE MIR BFH NWP VCQ GX L PWGK GSA OQE CRM ZLX JYU HTF NDI VB M BQX RZM SVA TKP JOF IGD LUH or LUW HEN YC N VLA QDZ JXM KFI GHO UWS REB CYT PN O TYG UOX DLP NZW IKE SBA FVM RQC JH P FOI DVW YSJ ZPU XBT AHN ERC MLK QG Q QZR EKP BGS XUN WVC TMY JFL DOA HI R HGO ACU NIK RQZ PWJ YVL TBS EFX MD S KEF BQD HZW SAR TNP LCV GIY XMU OJ T ZRL CJE MHT PVA OUQ DNX WKG SIY BF U ABZ PIG RDV OYS LCH XUK QJN TWM FE V CPU MFQ LRG IDJ HYA VKB SNX ZTO EW W IVS ZTF UOY WND KGB PJC AHE QRL XM X XKN FES CJQ BTY UAD HIM VPZ LGW RO Y JXD HWI EMC GBF QTY ORZ PAV KUS NL Z YMB OAL PUX EIH SFK WQJ CDR GNZ TV You should now have 6 rows of 26 letters. Shift each row so that the leftmost column spells out the encrypted word top to bottom. Read the 26 minus x column top to bottom, where x is equal to the sum of the serial number digits modulo 25. The resulting letters will form you your new encrypted word. Encrypted word. FGSJYY. Keyword escape. Column. 26 minus 7 plus 9 plus 8 modulo 25 is equal to 2. FZB, WSR, UJV, MCT, AIH, XGE, PLN, DQY, OK, GIY, XMU, OJK, EFB, QDH, ZWS, ART, NPL, CV, SQB, DIF, ZTM, GOU, KHL, AWJ, CXP, NVE, RY, JED, KNI, PTL, VZW, HAC, BFQ, GMS, RXY, UO, YSJ, ZPU, XBT, AHN, ERC, MLK, QGF, OID, VW, YOK, FZB, WSR, UJV, MCT, AIH, XGE, PLN, DQ. F goes to Z, G goes to I, S goes to Q, J goes to E, Y goes to S, Y goes to O. New encrypted word, ZIQESO. Step 3. Simplified M209 cipher. For this, you will need the encrypted word from Step 2 and the keyword from Step 1. Turn each character of the serial number into a 6-digit binary using the table below to form 6 rows and 6 columns. Then, turn each letter of the keyword into its alphabetic position -1, A equals 0, B equals 1, Z equals 25, modulo 13, plus 1. 0, 1 1 1 0 0 0. 1, 0 0 0 0 1 0. 2, 1 0 1 1 0 1. 3, 0 1 1 1 0 0. 4, 1 0 1 1 1 0. 5, 1 0 0 0 1 1. 6, 0 1 1 0 0 0. 7, 0 1 0 7, 1 0 1 0 1 0. 8, 1 1 0 1 0 1. 9, 0 1 1 0 1 0. A, 1 1 1 0 0 1. B, 0 0 1 0 1 1. C, 0 0 0 1 1 1. D, 1 0 1 1 0 0. E, 1 0 0 1 1 0. F, 1 1 1 0 1 1. G, 0 0 1 1 0 1. H, 1 1 1 1 0 1. I, 0 1 1 0 0 1. J, 1 1 0 0 0 0. K, 1 0 1 1 1 0. L, 1 0 0 1 0 1. M, 0 1 1 1 1 1. N, 1 1 1 0 1 0. O, 0 1 0 1 1 0. P, 0 0 0 1 0 1. Q, 0 0 0 0 1 1. R, 0 1 0 0 0 1. S, 0 1 0 0 0 0. T, 0 1 0 0 1 0. U, 1 0 0 0 0 1. V, 0 0 1 0 1 0. W, 0 0 1 1 0 0. X, 1 1 0 1 1 1. Y, 111 100. Z 000 100. Each row of binary represents one rotor, with ones being an active pin and zeros being an inactive pin. Each number represents the number of lugs that are placed for that rotor. First number is placed in first row, second number is placed in second row, etc. For each letter of the encrypted word, follow the instructions below. Turn the nth letter into its alphabetical position. Then take 27 minus the number. For each one in the nth column of the 6x6 binary sequence, add to the number of lugs that is in the same row as the rotor. If the number is higher than 26, subtract 26 until it falls between 1 and 26. Turn the number back into the letter. After following the instructions, you should now have a decrypted word. Encrypted word, ZIQESO. Keyword, escape. Serial number, J79EG8. E goes into 4. Modulo 13 is equal to 4 plus 1 equals 5. S goes into 18. Modulo 13 is 5 plus 1 is 6. C goes into 2. Modulo 13 is 2 plus 1 is 3. A goes into 0. Modulo 13 is 0 plus 1 equals 1. P goes into 15. Modulo 13 equals 2 plus 1 is 3. E goes into 4. Modulo 13 is 4 plus 1 equals 5. 5 110 000. 6 101 010. 3 1011 010. 1 100 110. 3 001 101. 5 110 101. Z goes into 27 minus 26 is 1 plus 5 plus 6 plus 1 plus 5 is 18, goes into R. I goes into 27 minus 9 is 18 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5 is 31 minus 26 is 5, goes into E. Q goes into 27 minus 17 equals 10 plus 6 plus 3 plus 3 equals 22, which goes into V. E goes into 27 minus 5 is 22 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 is 31 minus 26 is 5, goes into E. S goes into 27 minus 19 equals 8 plus 6 plus 3 plus 1 equals 18, which goes into R. O goes into 27 minus 15 equals 12 plus 3 plus 5 equals 20, which goes into T. Decrypted word, revert. Once you finally have your decrypted word, you can submit it. Once you start typing, all the screens will go black and the bottom screen will show what you are typing. To clear it, just click one of the arrows. This goes to one of the pages and clears any input you put in. It will not let you go over 6 letters on input. Once you're satisfied with your input, press the button labeled Sub to submit your answer. On a strike, the module will go back to the first page of the module, but it does not regenerate. Appendix Diary. First of all, I want to get something straight. This is a journal, not a diary. I know what it says on the cover, but when Mom went out to buy this thing, I specifically said to make sure it didn't say diary on it. So don't expect me to be all Dear Diary this and Dear Diary that. All I need is for some jerk to catch me carrying this thing around and get the wrong idea. The other thing I want to clear up right away is how this was not my idea. It was Mom's. The deal is that if I write in this book a little bit each day, I get out of one chore on Saturdays, so of course I picked the one I hate the most. But if Roderick ever finds out he's scrubbing toilets because of this book, I'm dead. Oh yeah, Roderick's my brother. I try to avoid him anyway. But now that I struck this deal with Mom, I better be extra careful. Anyway, I think Mom has this idea I'm going to write down my feelings and all that, but she's not actually allowed to read it, so I figured I'll just write what I want. The real reason I agreed to do this is all because I figure later on, when I'm rich and famous, I'll have better things to do than answer people's stupid questions all day long. Like I said, one day I will definitely be famous, but for now, I'm stuck in the 7th grade with just a bunch of morons. Today's my first day of school, and right now we're just waiting around for the teacher to hurry up and finish the seating chart. so I figured I might as well write in this book and just get it over with for the day. But I'll tell you something. On the first day of school, you got to be real careful of where you sit. You walk into the classroom and just plunk your stuff down on any old desk, and next thing you know, your teacher is saying, "I hope you all like where you're sitting because those are your permanent seats." So in this class, I got stuck with Chris Hosey in front of me and Lionel James in back of me. Otha Harris came in late and almost sat next to me, but I luckily did some quick thinking and got myself out of that one. I'm thinking for next period I should just sit in the middle of a bunch of cute girls as I step into the room. Then again, if I do that, it just proves that I didn't learn anything from last year. Plus, the other thing I got to think about is that girls don't let you copy off them, which could be a real problem in a class like pre-algebra. Speaking of seating, something that really stunk today is how in homeroom I got stuck with some teacher who had Roderick in his class a few years back. The only good thing I can think about the first day of school is that some of the teachers are new, so you can slide a little. Anyway, the teacher's almost done with the seating chart, and I think I wrote enough in this book to keep Mom off my back for today. This morning, Mom made me lend my brother Roderick some of my money so he could buy lunch, which really stunk. I'm still mad at Roderick for the trick he pulled on me at the beginning of the summer, so I'm not really looking to do with him any favors. What happened was that on the first day of summer vacation, he woke me up in the middle of the night, dressed up in his school clothes. He told me I slept through the whole summer, but that luckily I had woken up in time for the first day of school. You might think I'm pretty dumb for falling for that one, but I was too groggy to know any better, and plus, Roderick had set my clock ahead and pulled the blinds shut. So I just got up and got dressed and went downstairs to fix myself some breakfast. I must have made a big racket because the next thing I knew, Dad was in my face wondering what the heck I was doing eating Cheerios at 3 a.m. The thing about Dad when he comes downstairs late at night is that he's always just wearing a t-shirt and some boxer shorts. I don't know which is worse, getting yelled at or having to see your father in his underwear. I keep meaning to ask him to please put on some clothes the next time he comes downstairs, but the right opportunity never comes up. Anyway, it took me a couple of minutes to figure out what all was going on. When I told Dad Roderick tricked me, Dad stomped on down to Roderick's room in the basement, and I followed along. I was pretty excited to see Roderick get what he was coming. I was pretty excited to finally see Roderick get what was coming to him. But when we got down there, Roderick had covered up his tracks pretty good, and you would never know he had been up to something. Dad just threw up his hands and went back up to bed. So now Dad thought I was an idiot and a liar. Come to think of it, ever since Dad has been real suspicious around me, like I'm turning into a bad kid or something. I'll put it to you this way. If I'm going to do something bad and take the heat like I did that night, you better believe I'm going to come up with something a lot more satisfying than eating a bowl of Cheerios in the middle of the night. Today in social studies, I scored pretty big. The teacher made us sit in alphabetical order, so the way things fell out, I ended up right next to Alex Aruda, who was the smartest kid in the class. He's super easy to copy off of because he always finishes his tests early and then just puts his paper on the floor next to him while he reads a science fiction novel or something. Kids whose last names start with the early letters always end up being the smartest because they get called on first. Some people think that's not true, but if you want to come over to my school, I can prove it. I can only think of one kid who broke this last name rule, and that's Peter Udiger. He was the smartest kid until the middle of 5th grade. That's when a couple of us started giving him a hard time about his initials spilled every chance we got. Now he doesn't raise his hand at all, which makes for other kids to step forward and take the smartest kid title. I feel a little bad about the whole PU's thing because I'm one of the guys who started it, but it's hard not to take credit for it whenever it comes up. I figured out another good thing about writing this journal. When I'm famous, I can cash in on it. I just have to remember to keep it away from Manny, my little brother. If you have something valuable in the house, believe me, Manny will find a way to destroy it. Back before Manny came along, I remember I was all excited about getting a little brother. After all those years of Roderick picking on me, I figured it was my turn to be a little higher on the totem pole. But being a big brother didn't turn out like I expected at all. Mom and Dad protect Manny, so I can't pick on him, even if he does something to tick me off. Plus, he's never gotten punished for anything. And believe me, he's deserved it a bunch of times. Just the other day, he somehow got into my room and used a bunch of magic markers to decorate my door. I thought Mom and Dad would really let him have it, but as usual, I was wrong. So now I'm stuck waking up to this horrible drawing staring at me every day. Mom won't let me paint over it or even cover it up with a poster because she says it might hurt Manny's feelings. The only good thing about getting a little brother is that now, Roderick doesn't make me sell his stupid chocolate bars for school fundraisers anymore. The worst thing about Manny is that when he was real little, he couldn't pronounce brother, so he started calling me Bubby. And Mom and Dad didn't make me call didn't make me, and Mom and Dad didn't make him call me my real name when he could say it. Luckily, none of my friends have found out yet but I have some really close calls. Yesterday was the first day of PE, and we started the football unit. The first thing I did was sneak off to the basketball courts and check to see if the cheese was still there, where it was at the end of last school year, and sure enough it was. That thing has been sitting on the court since at least last fall and has caused a whole lot of trouble. It's all moldy and nasty, and ever since it showed up, people have been trying to avoid it. To give you an idea of how people go out of their way to stay away from the cheese, it's sitting right under the only hoop with a net in it, but nobody's played on that court for a year. Darnell Washington tripped and fell and brushed the cheese with his finger last year and started this whole thing called the cheese touch. It's basically like cooties, where if you get touched with the cheese touch, then you have it until you pass it on to somebody else. The only way to protect yourself from the cheese touch was to cross your fingers, but it was really hard to remember to keep your fingers crossed all the time, especially when whoever had the cheese touch was looking for his next victim. So I taped my fingers together for the last couple of weeks of school. I ended up getting a D in handwriting, but it was totally worth it. This one kid named Abe Hall got the cheese touch in April, and nobody would even sit at the same table with him at lunch for the whole rest of the year. This summer, he moved away to California, and he took the cheese touch with him. Nobody has touched the cheese ever since then, not even with a stick. Well, the first week of school is finally over, so I can sleep late again. Most kids set their alarms and get up early on Saturday morning to watch cartoons or whatever, but not me. The way I know it's time for me to crawl out of bed is when I can't stand the taste of my breath anymore. Unfortunately, Dad wakes up at 6 a.m. in the morning, so no matter what day it is, and he is not real considerate of the fact that I'm trying to enjoy my Saturday. Other than that, Saturday morning vacuuming, me and Dad get along pretty good. But Roderick and Dad is another story. It doesn't help that Roderick is a teenager, which is Dad's least favorite type of person. I think if there was a petition to ship all of the teenagers in the state to Australia, Alcatraz or something, Dad would be the first person to sign it. And the first teenager he'd put on the boat would be this kid named Lenwood Heath. Lenwood is always toilet papering people's houses and generally stirring up trouble in the neighborhood. Dad has seemed a lot more relaxed ever since August when Lenwood's dad shipped him off to some military academy in Pennsylvania. While I'm on the subject of Saturday, I should mention some of my other gripes. First of all, there's nothing on TV after 1 p.m., except golf and bowling. Second of all, the sun comes right through the sliding glass window, and you can hardly see what's on the TV anyway. And on top of that, you get all sweaty and stick to the couch. It's practically like a conspiracy against kids to make them go outside and do something besides watch TV. Today, after Dad woke me up, I decided to just skip the whole TV thing and go over to Rowley's. I know I haven't mentioned Rowley in this journal yet, even though he's technically my best friend, but there's a pretty good reason for that. Rowley kind of ticked me off on the first day of school with something he said at the end of the day when we were getting our stuff from our lockers. I told Rowley at least 1 billion times this summer that now we're in the middle school, you're supposed to say hang out, not play. But no matter how many times I kick him in the shins when he says play, he always forgets for the next time. So I guess you could say I've been avoiding Rowley this week. I've been trying to be more careful about my image ever since this summer when we got caught playing Vikings and Indians in the woods by a couple of 8th graders. What really burned me up about that whole incident is how that guy called me a nerd. Now, I'll admit I'm not exactly the most macho guy around in terms of wanting to do push-ups all the time or whatever, so if you want to call me a wimp, then fine. But I know one thing for sure, is that I am not a nerd. The trouble with nerds is that they give wimpy kids like me a bad name, because people end up lumping us all in the same category. When I think of nerds, I think of teachers' pets and tickle fights and hall monitors, and that is not me. Now, Rowley can speak for himself on the whole nerd thing, but I will just mention as a side note he has only a 12-year-old I know who still has a babysitter. Rowley moved here a couple of years ago, and I kind of took him under my wing. My former best friend, Ben, moved to Piscataway, and I figured I'd better find myself a new friend to hang out with. So here comes Rowley straight out of Ohio. His mom bought him some book called How to Make Friends in New Places, and he showed up at my door trying out all these gimmicks. All that kid would have had to have done is to have come right out and told me he had a PlayStation with 42 games in it, and it still would have sealed the deal. The best thing about having Rowley around is that I get a chance to use all the tricks Roderick used on me that I can never get away with pulling on Manny. Another bonus about Rowley is that he never squealed on me, not even once, So in some ways, I guess you could say he's a perfect friend. Today was a really bad day. Dad ended up running into Mr. Swan at church, and Mr. Swan was telling Dad how great Bishop Carrigan High School is, where his son Dan goes. Dad seemed real interested, which is a very bad sign for me. Now, I'm sure Bishop Carrigan is a fine school and all that, except for the fact that it is all boys. Number one, I want to go to Crossland High School, where there are boys and girls. And number two, I wouldn't survive the first day at Bishop Carrigan. Roderick doesn't have to worry about getting sent to Bishop Carrigan because he is already a junior at Crossland. But I definitely figure a way out. But I had definitely better figure a way out of this. Mr. Swan went on and on about how Bishop Carrigan makes men out of boys. And from the way Dad kept looking over at me, I knew I was in trouble. It doesn't help that Mr. Swan has 3 boys who are the same age as us Heffley boys, and Dad's carpool passes by their house every night. As far as the whole making men out of boys idea goes, I think the Swan boys have a pretty good head start. I've still got 2 years before I go to high school, and hopefully Dad will forget about Bishop Carrigan by then. But if things look bad down the road, I better start working on Mom to change my fate. Today I woke up and at first I thought it was still summer vacation, which is a really bad way to start a school day. The new thing is that I have to fix Manny his cereal every morning while Mom gets ready for work. Manny takes his bowl and sits right in front of the TV on his plastic potty. It's not like he's potty trained, but he got in the habit of doing this when he was 2, and he just never quit. The worst part is that after he's done, he dumps whatever he didn't eat right into the potty, and it's always me who has to clean it up. Mom always gets on me about not finishing my breakfast, but if you had to scrape a bunch of Cheerios out of a potty every morning, I bet you wouldn't have any appetite either. Today at school, we got assigned to reading groups. I was looking forward to finding out which group I was going to get put into because I wanted to see if a big plan I hatched at the end of last year was going to work. And now, they don't come right out and tell you if you're in the hard group or the easy group, but you can figure out right away by looking at the covers of the books they gave you. I was pretty bad to find out I got put in the hard group today, which meant my plan failed. I was hoping to get in the easy group because they only have to read about 1/10 of the stuff that the kids in the hard group ever have to read, and that's a whole lot less homework. At the end of last year, I did my best to muff up my screening test to make sure I didn't get put in the hard group. Another thing I did to make sure I didn't get put in the hard group was to make sure I didn't try out too hard on my end of the year essay. They make you do this 4-page paper at the end of the year, which is another way they figure out how to place you. I'm guessing Mom stepped in and made sure I got put into hard classes because she knows the principal of the school. Mom's always saying how I'm a real smart kid, but I just don't apply myself. You might wonder why I want to get put in the easy classes since I probably deserve to be in the hard classes, but I have a pretty good answer to that. If there's one thing I learned from Roderick, it's to set people's expectations real low so you end up surprising everyone by doing almost nothing at all. In fact, he did something on Friday that totally proves my point. Anyway, I guess I'm glad my plan didn't work because I noticed at least 2 of the kids in the Bink Says Boo group were holding their books upside down, and I don't think they were joking around. Today at lunch, I got to listen to Albert Sandy brag about how his parents bought him a 36-inch TV and a DVD player and a bunch of other stuff for his bedroom. It really makes me sad because my whole goal this summer was to save up for a TV so I didn't have to hang out with the rest of my family and watch what they want to watch all the time. So I spent the whole summer taking care of Mr. and Mrs. Rose's dog while they were on a trip. The deal was that I had to go over to their house twice a day to take their dog Stevie out, and I was supposed to get $3 a day for doing it. The big problem with Stevie is that I guess he's totally shy when it comes to going to the bathroom in front of strangers, so I wasted a whole lot of my summer standing there waiting for the stupid dog to hurry up and go. So I'd wait and nothing would happen, so I'd just go home. But every time I came back to the house later on, Stevie had made a mess in the kitchen. I figured out Steve was just holding it until the coast was clear. In fact, one day I tried an experiment where I left and came back 5 minutes later, and sure enough, Stevie had pooped right on the kitchen floor. And it's not like I didn't give the dog a chance to go. The Roses have satellite TV and tons of junk food, so I basically spent 3 hours a day on Mr. Rose's Lazy Boy with the air conditioner on full blast. So this one day, I finally figured out it was just a big hassle to clean up this dog's mess every single day, so I just decided to save myself some time and clean it up all at once. I let things go for about a week. Then, the night before the Roses were supposed to get back, I headed up the hill with all my cleaning stuff. and would you know it, the Roses came home a day early. To make a long story short, I didn't get paid a single cent, not even for the days I did my job like I was supposed to. So hearing Albert Sandage bragging about his TV just reminded me how I got stiffed and put me in a bad mood for the rest of the day. You know how I said Mom was always taking Manny's side? Well, today was some more proof of that. I made Manny cereal like I always do, but this time I accidentally poured in the milk before the cereal. And when I poured the cereal on top of that, Manny just about lost his mind. He made a huge racket, crying and hollering and all that, and Mom came down to see what was going on. So I told her what happened, and I figured she would just tell Manny to pipe down and eat his stupid cereal. But instead she says I wouldn't eat it either, and she gives Manny a big hug and makes me pour him a new bowl of cereal, this time in the right order. I guess I should have expected it. A couple weeks ago, when Manny was at a daycare, he opened up his lunchbox and he went out. And when he took out his sandwich, he had fit because it was cut in two halves, not four squares like he usually gets it. So the daycare people had to call Mom at work to get her to come over so Manny would calm down. Today, I got totally dissed by Christine Coolidge. I asked her if she would be my lab partner for science, and she told me she already had a partner. But then later on in class, I saw her walk up to Bryce Anderson and ask him if he would be her lab partner. I'm not surprised she went after Bryce because he was the most popular kid in our grade for something like 3 years running. But she didn't have to go and lie about it either. It used to be a lot more simple with girls. Way back in the 3rd grade, the deal was if you were the fastest runner in the grade, you were the king. And in my grade, that was Ronnie Jones. Nowadays, it's a lot more complicated, and I'm sure kids like Ronnie Jones are sitting around scratching their heads wondering what happened. Not only does Bryce Anderson get all the girls, but he also has a big group of cronies that follow him around and basically worships every word that comes out of his mouth. The thing that really stinks is that I've always been into girls, but kids like Bryce have only come around to liking girls in the past couple of years. I remember how Bryce used to be back in the 4th and 5th grade. And of course I don't get any credit from the girls for sticking with him for all this time. Like I said, Bryce is the most popular kid in the 7th grade, so that leaves all the rest of us scrambling to move up the ladder. The best way to figure out how popular you are is to get a hold of one of the slam books that gets passed around. Basically, they're notebooks where people put rankings down for most popular boy, most popular girl, best hair, cutest butt, and all of that. The problem with these books, though, is that they're in regular notebooks which only have 24 lines on each page. So people like me won't make the top 24 have to guess where they rank. The best I can figure right now is I'm somewhere around 32nd or 33rd most popular. But I think I'm about to move up a rank because Charlie Davies, who's a really nice kid, gets his braces on Tuesday. What someone needs to do is start up a slam book with one of those yellow legal pads of paper, because they have something like 32 lines in them, so at least kids like me could have a better picture of where they stand. But the problem is that it takes a popular kid to start a slam book, and I'm sure if I started one, it would get filled out by all nerds. Today I got hold of a slam book, and I was trying to explain all this to Rowley on the bus ride home. But honestly, sometimes with him, I feel like it's just in one ear and out the other. Tonight, Dad was showing me the newest stuff he added to a Civil War diorama in the basement. And I got to admit, it's pretty cool. Dad's not like the regular kinds of dads you see on TV, sitting around and watching football and drinking beer and all that. And every second he gets, you can be sure he's down in the workroom, painting his little soldiers or moving up around the battlefield trying to make it as accurate as possible. Dad would be happy to spend the whole weekend working on his diorama, but Mom usually has other ideas. Mom likes to rent these romantic comedies, and Dad has to watch them with her whether he wants to or not. A couple weeks ago, when Mom rented one of these movies, Dad tried to get clever and fake out Mom. When she got up to go to the bathroom, Dad stuffed a bunch of pillows under the blankets to make it seem like he had fallen asleep. So when Mom watched the rest of the movie and didn't catch on that Dad had made a decoy until the movie was over. Dad was in the doghouse for a long time after that one. Another thing I should mention about Dad's workroom is that he is real protective of it. He keeps the door bolted shut with one of those combination locks, so he hardly ever even gets to step foot in there. I don't even think Mandy knows the diorama exists. I've seen my dad say some things to Mandy to make sure Mandy keeps clear of that part in the basement. Riley came over tonight, and Dad gets real edgy when Riley's around. For some reason, Dad has it in his head that Riley's a klutz, and that he's going to break something every time he comes over. Dad told me about this nightmare he always has about Riley ruining his battlefield with one klutzy move. So every time Riley comes over, he gets the same greeting: basement is off limits. Today I got out of bed early because the vacuuming thing was more than I could handle. I watched cartoons for a while, but then I remembered the other reason I didn't get up early on Saturdays. With Dad doing his chores all around you, it doesn't make you feel guilty. No, it makes you feel guilty. It takes out the joy of just laying around doing nothing. Today I'm going to spend the night at Rally's. It's a pretty big deal because I haven't spent the night over there in something like a year and a half. The main reason I haven't slept over there in so long is because Rally's dad really doesn't like me. It all goes back to something that happened last June. We were watching some corny movie Rally had where there were these kids that taught themselves a secret language that only they could understand. Me and Rally thought this whole secret language thing was really cool, but we couldn't figure out how to do it like the kids in the movie. So we decided to make up our own secret language and we tried it out over dinner. Where Rally's dad was a practical code because the next thing I knew, I was going home early. That was the last time I was invited for a sleepover. So I don't know why Mr. Jefferson is giving me a second chance. He's gotten over the whole secret language thing, or he's forgotten why he doesn't like me. The sleepover at Rowley's last night ended up being a nightmare. The first hint I had that things were going to go wrong was when Riley's mom told me that's enough for the TV for the night at 7 o'clock. I was like, well, what are we supposed to do now? And she said, you could read a book. So of course I thought she was joking. But right when I was telling Riley how I thought of his mom was pretty funny, she showed up again with her arms full of books. I realized right then I was in for a pretty long night. Since the TV was off limits, video games were out too. So I tried to think of ways we could keep ourselves entertained. I broke out some board games, but Riley had to take a bathroom break like every 5 minutes, so it made our game of Risk go on forever. Every time Riley came back from a bathroom break, he would run downstairs and kick this giant sombrero across the room. It was pretty funny the first 10 times or so, but after a while it really started getting on my nerves. So this one time when he was upstairs, I put one of his dad's dumbbells under the hat to see if he would still kick it. And sure enough, Riley comes down, running down the stairs and gives the hat a big kick. Riley's dad was down the stairs in no time flat. I don't think Riley knew I put the dumbbell under the hat, but Riley's dad seemed pretty suspicious. Anyway, I guess he didn't have enough hard evidence or he would have sent me home right then. I feel a little bit bad about knowing what I did, but if you think about it, if Riley's parents hadn't made us turn off the TV, this never would have happened. At 9 o'clock, Riley's mom came down to say it was lights out. If I would have known Riley's bedtime on weekends was 9 o'clock, believe me, I never would have come over. Then I found another ugly surprise. There was no guest bed, so I had to sleep in the same bed with Riley. I tried to lay as far away from Riley as possible, but it was impossible to get sleep with half my body hanging off the bed. Riley fell asleep right away, but it must have taken me 2 hours. But right when I finally started to drift away, Riley let out the scream, which scared me so bad, I dropped right out of the bed and onto the hardwood floor. Riley's parents came running in, and Riley started babbling all this incoherent gibberish. It turns out he had a nightmare that a chicken was hiding underneath him, and that's what made him yell out. But I think Riley was so out of it that he didn't really realize it was just a dream. So Riley's parents took him into their room and spent the next 20 minutes calming him down, telling him it was just a dream and how there really was no chicken. Man, if I woke up my dad with some nonsense about a chicken, you better believe he would be giving me a big hug and telling me everything was okay. But that just goes to show how different my parents are from Riley's. And I just want to make a note that nobody seemed all that concerned, and I took a 3-foot fall onto the floor, even though that happened for real and not just some stupid dream. I think Riley spent the night in his parents' bed, which was just fine by me, because without Riley and his nightmare, I was finally able to get some sleep. But the second I woke up this morning, I came home and poured myself a big bowl of junk cereal and did my best to forget about the whole experience. I couldn't wait for school to be over with today so I could go home and play Twisted Wizard, a video game I've been playing for 5 days straight. The only problem with Twisted Wizard is that you can't save your progress, so you have to wait just to leave it on all the time. So imagine how I felt today when I realized I got home about 5 seconds too late. Believe me, from now on, I'm going to put a piece of black tape over the power light so it never happens again. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I am super good at video games. I don't know if anyone who has beat as many games as me, and I've got all my victories on videotape to prove it. Unfortunately, Dad does not give me exactly does not exactly appreciate my video game skills. He is always getting on me about going outside and doing something active. So today I tried to explain to him that with video games, you can play sports like football and soccer and you don't even have to get all hot and sweaty. But as usual, Dad doesn't get my logic. He's a pretty smart guy in general, but when it comes to common sense, sometimes I wonder about him. Anyways, that's how I found myself shut out of the house this afternoon. I'm pretty sure Dad would dismantle my video game system if he could figure out how to, but luckily the people who make these things make them parent-proof. So like I said, I was shut out of the house looking for some way to entertain myself. What I always do when Dad makes me go outside is I just go over to Colin's house. I'm not a huge fan of Colin's, but he has two things going for him. One, he doesn't mind watching me play his video games, and two, his dad has every Spider-Man comic book since 1968. I would go over to Riley's house to play video games, but he always wanted to take turns, which really breaks my concentration. Plus, Riley doesn't understand that if he plays using my memory card, it will really screw up my stats. The other thing about Riley is that he's not just a serious gamer like me. He's got this one racing game called Formula 1 Racing. If you ever want to beat him in it, just name your car something stupid and watch what happens. So today I played Twisted Wizard over at Colin's house until it was time to come home for dinner. On my way up the hill, I made sure to jump through the Thompson sprinkler to make it look like I was all hot and sweaty, and then I timed my entrance perfectly. So my trick worked on Dad, but it kind of backfired with Mom because when she saw me, she made me take a shower before dinner. Dad must have been pretty proud of himself for this idea to kick me out of the house yesterday, because he did it again today. I was actually going to go outside anyway because Riley had gotten this new model rocket we wanted to try out. So I went down to the school and set it off. But the wind carried it all the way to the woods at the end of the football field. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before, but there's a bully who likes to hang out in the woods named Herbie Reamer. Kids like me and Riley stay as far away from the woods as possible. It's a real pity too, because like I said, it was a brand new rocket. I have no idea how old Herbie Reamer is or where he lives. I guess it's possible that he lives right there in the woods like a wild animal. All I know is that he's been around long enough that he terrorized Roderick and his friends when they were in my grade. The thing that stinks is that Herbie Reamer's woods are right between my house and the school. So if we could cut through the woods, it would have saved us something like 20 minutes of walking. I was telling my dad about Herbie Reamer the other day. Dad told me about the bully from when he was growing up, Sam Sharman. Dad said Sam Sharman did his pinch where he grabbed your skin and twisted it around 2 times. Dad told me that the way all the neighborhood kids dealt with Sam Sharman was that they banded together and told the principal on him. Dad said Sam cried, and then he never did the Sam Sharman pinch again. And now he's an air conditioner repairman, and apparently now he's a really nice guy. Well, from the sound of Sam Sherman, he wouldn't last 2 seconds again as Herbie Reamer. But I don't want to hurt Dad's feelings, so I tried to act impressed by his story. After we lost the rocket, we went up to Rowley's to play cards, but I lost track of time and it was late for dinner at my house. So on my way down the hill, I tried to think of a good excuse to get me out of trouble with Mom. Mom was pretty hot at me for being late, just like I expected, so I told her that the clock in Riley's kitchen must be wrong, and that I thought I was right on time. And do you know what Mom did? She called Riley's mom and caught me red-handed. So Mom was really mad that I lied, but as far as being tricky goes, Mom shouldn't blame me, because I learned everything I know from her. I remember this one time I was in the 2nd grade, and my mom couldn't get me to brush my teeth, so she made this pretend call to the dentist, and I totally fell for it. In fact, that's when I started brushing my teeth 5 minutes a day. Mom said she was going to think about what my punishment should be for telling a lie, and she'd let me know as soon as she came up with something that fit the crime. See, that's the difference between Mom and Dad. Dad is pretty simple. If you mess up in front of him, he throws whatever in his hand at you. But Mom's a lot more crafty with her punishments. She thinks all about it for a few days, and the waiting ends up being just about as bad as the punishment. In the meantime, you end up doing all these nice things hoping it'll get off you easier. But then after a few days, just when you forget about the punishment that's coming, that's when she gets you. The only good thing about Mom's punishments is that she's pretty soft, so if you just lay low for a while, you can pretty much always get out of the punishment early. Anyway, that's what I'm counting on while I wait for this punishment to get handled down. Well, now I've gone and done it. Remember how I said yesterday that while you're waiting for Mom to hand down her punishment, you end up doing all this good stuff to make her change her mind? It was that kind of thinking that got me in this extra trouble I'm in now. Today after school, I thought maybe if I washed Mom's car before she got home, She may go easy on me with the punishment thing. So that's what I did. But I made the mistake of using Brillo to rub off all the bugs and tar spots. So I was in the surprise of my life when I rinsed the car off. I totally ruined the paint job. I thought about just denying everything when Mom asked me how the car got scratched up, but Manny was there to see everything. Manny has been telling on me since he could talk. In fact, he has told me for stuff I did before he could talk. One time when I was 8, I broke the sliding glass door, but Mom and Dad couldn't peg it on me. But Manny was able to witness it, and he squealed on me 3 years later. So after Manny started talking, I had to start worrying about all the bad things he saw me do when he was real small. I used to be a tattletale myself until I learned my lesson. This one time I told on Roderick for saying a bad word. Mom asked me which word he said, so I spelled it out. And it was a long one, too. Not only did Roderick get away scot-free, but I got punished for knowing how to spell a bad word. Like I said, I knew I couldn't talk Manny out of telling me for using the Brillo on the car, so I decided to try a trick off and saving up for a little situation like this. I packed up a bag and made it seem like I was going to run away from home rather than face Mom and Dad for what I did. I gotta give Roger credit for this one. He used to pull it on me when he did something bad and he knew I was going to tell on him. He basically just walk outside and then come home 5 minutes later. But by that time, I was in pieces and couldn't even remember the bad thing that he did. So I left the house and waited 5 minutes and came back inside. I was expecting to find Manny in the foyer bawling like a baby, but he wasn't there at all. I went around the house looking for him, and I started to get really nervous because I'm not supposed to leave Manny alone. But when I found him in the kitchen, guess what? He was halfway finished with my giant Hershey Kiss I've been saving since summer. So things turned from bad to worse. When Mom got home, I actually spilled the beans to her about the car as fast as I could. I was basically trying to keep Manny quiet about how I left the house, which would have gotten me in a lot more trouble than ruining her car. Mom just listened with a frown on her face and told me we'd have to wait until Dad got home to see what he thought about what I did. I figured she might do that, so I pulled another trick I learned from Roderick. I invited Grandma over for dinner. I figured nothing too bad could happen if she was around, and I knew I could use any protection I could get. So at 6 o'clock on the dot, my dad came home, and of course he's in a great mood for some reason. That always happens when I'm in wait for Dad to get home kind of trouble. It stinks because you know he's just going to be that much madder when he finds out what you did. Mom kept quiet because Grandma was around, so at least that part of my plan worked out. After dinner, I just snuck up to my room as quietly as I could. I think Mom is telling Dad about the car right now because it's real quiet downstairs. Roderick hasn't made me feel any better about this whole thing. Whenever I'm in trouble, he just tells me that I'm probably going to get the belt. As far as I know, Dad doesn't believe in that kind of punishment, but Roderick always seems to think Dad is going to make an exception for me. I've done my best to make sure Dad reads articles from parenting magazines from time to time to let him know that that kind of thing doesn't fly these days. I just cut those articles out and slipped them into whatever book he's reading at the time. I think I hear Dad heading up the stairs now. If these are the last words I ever write, then I leave all my comic books and action figures to Rally. And please don't throw out the other half of my Hershey's Kiss away so Manny doesn't get it. Well, I live to see another day. Last night when Dad knocked on my door, I peeked through the crack and saw he wasn't wearing the belt, so I let him in. Dad wasn't even all that mad, mostly because it wasn't his car that got scraped up, so he just told me not to use Brillo to clean a car again and that was it. Mom was another story. Her punishment for ruining her car was that I have to go clean the whole basement. And she said if she catches me lying down, she'll take away my video games for good. So I better be pretty honest from now on. So now that all that stuff was behind me, I can switch my focus back to school. We just got our first big assignment in English, which is to do a book report. I've been milking the same book report for the past 5 years. Encyclopedia Brown does it again. There are about 12 short stories in there, but I always just treat one short story like it's a whole book and the teacher never notices. And to give you an idea of how short each story is, I can finish one in about 3.5 minutes without really trying. These Encyclopedia Brown stories are always the same. It's always about how somebody commits some lame crime like stealing a fish, and then an encyclopedia figures out who did it and makes them look stupid. I have to say that no matter how hard I try, I never figure out one of these stories before the end. So I guess I'm not as brainy as an encyclopedia. I'm kind of an expert at writing these book reports by now, so I know how to write exactly what a teacher wants to hear. So for me, book reports are no sweat. I forgot to mention that this afternoon I took care of part one of Mom's punishment. Now I've just got to keep my nose clean for a while and I'll be off the hook. So far it's been about 35 hours and I've kept my promise to Mom about the whole honesty thing. It really hasn't been as bad as I thought, and in fact it has been kind of liberating. I've been in a couple situations already where I've been a lot more truthful than I would have just a day or two ago. Like today, when Max Smedley started telling me his big plans at Riley's grandpa's birthday party. But most people don't seem to really appreciate a person as honest as me. Let's just say I can't understand how George Washington ever got elected president. I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow because there are a couple of teachers who could use a good dose of truthfulness. I think the honesty promise has been canceled, and not by me, but by Mom. Today I answered the phone and it was Mrs. Gretchen from the PTA, and she wanted to talk to Mom. But Mom signaled to me that I should tell Mrs. Gretchen that she wasn't home. I didn't know if it was a trick or what, but I knew that I wasn't going to go and break my honesty streak all over a thing like this. So I made Mom go outside on the front porch before I would say a word to Mrs. Gretchen. Mom didn't come out right out and say the honesty deal is off, but she didn't speak to me for the rest of the night, so I figure I could just go back to how I was before. The only other thing that happened today was worth mentioning is that Roderick broke his own Saturday sleeping record. At 3:30, Dad said enough is enough and made Roderick get out of his bed in the basement. Roderick just took all of his sleeping gear upstairs, popped himself on the couch until it was time for dinner. Ever since Mom dangled the idea of taking away video games, I've been trying to be on my best behavior, so you wouldn't think I'd get in trouble in the 15 minutes it takes to drive to church. That's exactly what I did. I was trying to have some fun with Manny by making faces at him in the back seat of the car, but when I finally got a laugh out of him, he just spit his juice all over the car seat. This just made Manny laugh extra hard, but the next thing you know, Mom says he could have choked to death. Well, I guess I thought it was just too much for Manny to take. All I know is that the rest of the ride was pretty miserable for everyone. So you can see how I can go from being the hero to the goat in no time flat. At church, my old best friend Ben was sitting up in front with his family. Mom doesn't let us sit close to Ben's family because me and Ben used to always get into little giggle fits when we sit near each other. A big routine was that at the part in church where you're supposed to say, "Peace be with you," and shake hands, we'd say, "Peas be with you," like the vegetable. Mom said if we don't stop laughing in church, she's going to separate us, so we behaved ourselves for a while. But this one Sunday during the "Peace be with you" part, Ben actually handed me a couple of dried up peas he had been carrying in his pocket, and we both totally lost it. Mom kept good on her promise, because we haven't even sat at the same side of church as Ben since that day. On the way home from church, we passed by the Smedleys, who were in their front yard. There were about 6 boys in that family, but it's hard to tell if any of them were apart. The Smedleys' big dream in life is to win the grand prize on America's Funniest Home Videos. So they're always trying to stage some kind of accident. I bet for every 10 times you see a guy get hit in the groin with a golf ball on the show, 9 of them are sent in by families like the Smedleys just trying to make a buck. Today at school I was looking at the inside of my pre-algebra book, and I saw that I used to belong to Jimmy Jury, who was the most popular kid in the 8th grade. I figured I might be able to transfer this into some pretty big popularity points of my own, but the problem was that Jimmy Jury didn't write his name anywhere on the outside of the book, so I just took care of that detail on my own. Unfortunately, I also got Brian Gleason's science book, so things sort of evened out. In my phys ed today, a couple of girls caused a stir when they presented a petition to Mr. Underwood, the gym teacher. The way they got the idea of writing a petition was because in history, we're studying Martin Luther, who is a guy who wrote a list of demands and posted them on a church door. So the girls got it in their heads that it was unfair that they had to do girl push-ups while the guys get to do boy push-ups. They all signed their names to be on the list to protest. If I was them, I wouldn't complain. Girl push-ups are just about 10 times easier than boy push-ups. With girl push-ups, you get to keep your knees on the ground, so you only work half as hard. So Mr. Wood surprised them when he said, "Sure, you girls can do it, go ahead and do boy push-ups." I think the girls were expecting a lot bigger fight. Now I know at least half of them wish they could take that petition back. I kind of got inspired by the whole episode, and I started to put together a petition saying the boys want to be allowed to do girl push-ups. But when I saw the group of guys who was interested in signing it, I decided to just bag it. Tonight was a pretty big deal for me because it was the start of the new TV season. I've had to watch 5 months of reruns, so you can probably understand that I was fired up to finally see something new. Dad put Manny to bed, and Mom made me popcorn, and I was all set for some serious television watching. But 5 minutes into it, the first show Manny makes an appearance in the family room. But instead of putting Manny right back to bed, Mom let him stay up and watch TV with us. And here's the kicker. Mom made me change the channel because the show I was watching, the kids had a disrespectful attitude towards the adults, and she didn't want Manny exposed to that sort of thing. Cop shows wore out too because of the violence. So guess what? Maud made me turn to the cartoon channel, which is exactly Manny was watching before he went to bed. Man, I was steamed. When I was a kid, there wasn't any of this getting out of bed and coming back downstairs stuff. I think I did it once or twice, but Dad put a stop to it real quick. There was this book Dad used to read to me before I went to sleep called A Light in the Attic. It was an awesome book, but on the back of it there was a picture of the guy who wrote it, Shel Silverstein. Have you ever seen that guy? All I can say is that he looks more like a burglar or pirate than the guy who writes poems for kids. Well, Dad used to leave that book right on my end table every night, with the back of the book facing up, and it really gave me the heebie-jeebies. I think Dad caught on that Shel Silverstein kind of freaked me out, because the first night after I pulled the kind of thing Manny pulled tonight, Dad let me read some poems from A Light in the Attic, and then said, "If you get up again tonight, I wonder if you'll run into Shel Silverstein in the hallway." Well, Dad really had any number with that trick. I never got up again, not even to go to the bathroom. I would rather have wet the bed than to find that guy creeping around upstairs. Last night, Manny finally went to bed, and I finally got to watch one of the new shows. But I've got to say, it wasn't worth the wait. All of the new sitcoms are the same. They basically take one lame joke and then drive it into the ground for the next 30 minutes. I wanted to see if I could write a better show than these clowns who were making thousands of dollars, so at lunch today I gave it a shot. I showed my drawings to Mom, and she surprised me by being really interested. She told me that if I really wanted to write a TV show, I just had to come up with the whole plot with the beginning and an end. I think she was just happy I was showing an interest in something other than the video game for once. It seems like every new show that comes out nowadays, it's about some dad who does or says something really ignorant at the beginning of the show, but then by the end of the show, he comes around and realizes that he was being an nincompoop. So the next show I wrote, called Wise Up, Mr. Lockerman, is based on that kind of idea. I showed the script to Mom when I was done. To be honest with you, I don't think she really approves of my type of humor, but she was pretty excited to see me working on this stuff. Usually when Mom gets too enthusiastic about something I'm doing, that's my signal to back off. But Mom said she's going to try and get a hold of a video camera from work to let me put some ideas on film. So I guess I can deal with it for now. Last night I was so excited about getting my hands on a video camera. I couldn't sleep. So today in school I faked about being sick in gym so I could write down my idea for a movie. My mom was able to get camera from work. So I finished up the script and brought it up to Riley's house to show him. I think it's my best up yet, and that's saying something. Well, Riley's reaction wasn't quite what I was hoping for. You'd think Riley was grateful that I was going to make him a big star, and of course I got no thanks for writing juicy roles for his parents. Today after school I walked up to Riley's house to show him some rewrites I did from The Boy Whose Family Thought He Was a Dog, but Riley wouldn't answer the door. I started to head home, and then all of a sudden Mom pulls up alongside with me and Mackie Creevy in the backseat of the car. Oh man, I completely forgot about soccer. Dad makes me do it every year so I'm well-rounded. So I guess I gotta put my film career on hold and go get my shins kicked in for a couple of months. First night of soccer practice is always the same. They start off by doing these skills tests to see how good you are. Usually I don't care about how I get ranked, but this year the guy who was doing the testing was Mr. Matthews, who's the father of Piper Matthews, the prettiest girl at our church. So I figured I'd better do my best if I wanted to impress my future father-in-law. Even though I tried my hardest, I still got ranked pre-alpha minus, which is adult code words for you stink. The next thing they do is put everyone on a team. They basically try to spread out the really awful kids like me, so no one team has too many terrible players. And wouldn't you know my luck, I got put on Kenny Keith's team, so that means my coach is Mr. Keith, same as last year. Mr. Keith hates me, and I traced it all the way back to the first day of practice last year. A bunch of the terrible players were slacking off, hanging out by the water jug when Mr. Keith yelled at us to get back on the playing field. So as a joke, I ran backwards with my rear end pointed at Mr. Keith. I think it would have been funnier if all the other guys had done the same thing I did, but they kind of hung me out to dry. Anyway, you can probably guess that Mr. Keith did not find my jokes so amusing, and from then on he made things pretty miserable for me. Right before the first game, he gave us all our positions, and he told me my position was shag. I didn't know a whole lot about soccer, but I was pretty good that I had my very own position. I remember bragging to Roderick about it. But Roderick knew a thing or two about soccer, and he told me that shag isn't actually a real position on the field. It's just a kid who chases all the balls that go out of bounds. And sure enough, Roderick was right. Mr. Keith never put me in a game, and I wasn't even the worst on our team. We had Colin and Mackie Creevy and a couple other kids who can barely kick a soccer ball. There was I chasing balls into the street. Let me just say something in defense of all the shags out there. Shag might not be the most noble position in soccer, but it's definitely the most stressful. Tonight I was all set to go over to Colin's house, but I found out Dad had rented a movie, so I changed my plans and stayed home. Whenever Dad gets a movie, he never checks the rating, so it's always worth hanging out and seeing what he picked out. And half the time he gets something Mom would never let me watch on my own. The only downside about watching movies with Dad is that if there's ever a scene with anything at least a bit inappropriate, somehow Mom shows up at the worst moment and makes you feel ashamed for watching it. Luckily, I have mastered the kind of response that gets me off the hook every time, especially during the racy scenes. I just make sure I head back downstairs later on to catch up anything I missed. Today after church, Mom and I went over to Grandma's to check up on her. Mom was pretty worried because Grandma hasn't been answering her phone for a few days, so Mom wanted to make sure Grandma was okay. But when we got there, we found Grandma sitting in her kitchen clipping coupons like usual. So when Mom asked Grandma why she hasn't been answering the telephone, Grandma said, "Cordless telephones erase the memory of the elderly." Well, that kind of set Mom off, because she knew exactly where Grandma was getting her information, from the supermarket tabloids. But somehow Grandma keeps getting a hold of these things, even though she doesn't drive. So when Mom confronted Grandma and said, "Where did you read that, Mom?" Grandma knew she was concerned. So Mom found where Grandma was stashing the tabloids, and we took it home for us to throw away. What Mom doesn't know is that I always dig those things out of the trash and read them when no one's around. There's actually a bunch of good stuff in there, like horoscopes and predictions. In fact, the reason I take school with a grain of salt is because this one tablet says the whole East Coast is going to be underwater within 5 years. I don't know if I ever mentioned this before, but every morning when Dad wakes up, he gives me the same exact speech. It's 10 of 7, Mom's in the shower, and I want you to get there in the second she's out so you're not late for your bus. Let's move it. Hup, hup, hup. I don't know where Dad gets his morning energy, but I definitely did not inherit that gene from him. After he wakes me up, I prop myself on my elbow and try my hardest not to fall back asleep. This morning I accidentally fell back asleep, and after Dad woke me up, and believe me, it was the last time I ever made that mistake. At school this morning, there were a bunch of kids from Mrs. Bunn's homeroom class standing around and in the hallway, tripping every other kid that walked by. It's really sad to see what passes for comedy these days. Back in the 5th grade, me and Ben were an awesome comedy team, and we had some really good routines. But ever since Ben left town, the funniest thing that ever happens in school is when some poor kid drops his lunch tray in the cafeteria. I tried to pick the comedy thing back up when Riley came along, but things never really worked out. I thought of another good reason to keep a journal. When I got rich and famous, I can pull out this book to remind myself why I shouldn't let Roderick swim in any pool or use my bowling alley for anything like that. Tonight, Roderick pulled his get out of doing the dishes routine, just like he does every night. Dad has a rule that we're not allowed to watch TV until the dishes are done, but right after dinner, Roderick always goes upstairs to the bathroom and doesn't come down for something like 45 minutes. By that time, I've done all the dishes myself. Well, tonight I said enough is enough, and I went to complain to Mom and Dad. But of course, Roderick had an excuse. All I can say is that if Roderick wants to hang out in my mansion when we're grown up, you better bring a towel and some sponges because he's going to be doing He's going to do a whole lot of dishes. Tonight's soccer practice ended a few minutes early so the coach could hand out uniforms and we could come up with a team name. I suggested Twisted Wizards and said maybe we could get the Game Zone to sponsor us, but of course my perfectly good idea got shot down. A bunch of other ideas got tossed around until some idiot came up with the name Red Sox. I couldn't believe it when a bunch of kids thought it was a really good idea. And guess what? That's what everyone voted on. Now, number 1, the Red Sox is a baseball team, not a soccer team. And number 2, our uniforms are blue, including the socks. But of course, nobody would ever listen to me. Brown Cipher. Thank you for watching. I hated this. I fucked up a lot of sentences. Whatever.